Hello, this is Dr. Joel B. Goodin with Driven to Doctorate. Today we have our guest, Dr. Ezra Lockhart. How are you, Ezra?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
Excellent, excellent. And doctor, I got to remember to really emphasize the new doctor on your name so that you get used to it. You were my student at North Central University.
Yes.
You are no longer because you finished and you're a doctor now. You haven't had graduation yet though, right? Are you graduating in May or later in the
It's
fall?
in May. Yeah, in May.
In May, I need to make a video for you. We're putting together all these videos, to be like, hey, way to go, you did it, or whatever.
Yes.
Since we're not in person, we don't have to, but I try to do it for anybody I'm connected to. So yeah, I was your subject matter expert, which means it doesn't mean I necessarily had subject matter expertise, but I had some, and generally it's just another pair of eyes. Like some universities call it a second member of the committee or methodologist or whatever, but it's sort of, we just call it a subject matter expert or a SME. So I was your SME, right?
Yes.
And we hadn't really seen each other until, what was that, a few weeks ago?
Correct. Or yeah, I guess almost a month ago. Yep.
You had seen me because I do video feedback, and I'll like read your paper and record, sort of a discussion of what I thought, and here's how to fix this maybe or whatever. And so you get videos of me, but I had never seen you until your defense, and you did excellent work. And I was like, yeah, I remember this study, and it was fantastic. So it's good that you came on the show. You're the second, I think the second student I've had on the show.
Oh, good.
And yeah, it's just, I think it's good to have people sort of look back and reflect and say, okay, now you can speak freely. I'm not your, you can say what you want. And so I appreciate you coming on. So Ezra, where are you currently in the States?
So
Or
right now I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Denver. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's been a trek. It's been a trek. I've only been here, I think, coming on 2.5 years. So it's pretty new to me.
Okay. So you've been elsewhere. I was going to start with, where are you from? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Sure. So born and raised in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Oh, wow.
So on the island of Oahu. Yeah, I'm actually Aboriginal Hawaiian, and there aren't many of us.
Wow. That's cool.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
cool. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to tell the difference besides asking somebody, I guess.
Sure. Yeah.
How you doing?
I get a lot of people who just see like someone who's ethnically ambiguous.
Right.
Like I get put into American Indian. I get put into like indigenous South American, Mexican, Latinx. Yeah.
People just try to guess and they
Oh
get
yeah.
it wrong. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, but like I wouldn't know, for instance, the most famous Hawaiian that I'm thinking of. Well, I guess Tulsi Gabbard's over there. But
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm thinking more of like, I watch college football, so I was like thinking of Tunga. I don't even know how to say his name, but he's an amazing quarterback that played for Alabama. And I don't know, how would I know if he's Aboriginal? Aboriginal.
So the first off, in the last name, if it starts with a T or an F, then it's either Tongan or Samoan, because in Hawaii and in the Hawaiian language, we don't have T's and F's, we have K's.
Okay.
The K sound. So I can tell you right now that he wouldn't be Hawaiian, or I mean he could be partial.
He's not Aboriginal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. That also brings to mind this like meditation. One of my students brought to my attention recently. I'm not gonna screw up the name of this one either. Well, I will if I
Oh,
try.
Ho'oponopono. Yeah.
Yeah,
I know Ho'oponopono. Yeah, yeah.
I just call it hippo. Um,
Sure, sure.
no, because I haven't figured out how to say it properly.
Yeah.
I I do that just to mess with my student, but that's probably, I don't know. I don't mean to insult at
No,
all.
no, not at
I
all. No.
tried it and I really enjoyed it. Huapaphone. There's like lots of O's and P's, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about that off interview. So you were born in Hawaii and grew up
Yep.
there?
Yep. Until age 13.
Okay,
Um,
tell me how that tell me what happened. How'd you get to where you are now?
Sure. So what happened was actually at age 13, we were like our family, our immediate family, because of course, like in Hawaii, we have extended families. Um, we were the first to leave the island. My mother married a military man who was in the Air Force,
Yeah.
finished his term, and we moved to Alaska. Of all places, the most dramatic of changes. I'd never seen snow in my life, and I'm a 13-year-old, born and raised with what we call jams or short pants,
Right,
and what
right.
we call slippers, which on the East Coast they call thongs. Um, and I saw snow for the first time and was in disbelief. And I, for many a year, walked in slippers and jams when it was like 20, 30 degrees and snowing. um, so yeah, we moved to Hawaii, and it mainly was because the education system was really poor, um, extremely overfilled classrooms, a lot of teacher retention issues. So
Oh, in Hawaii?
in Hawaii, so mostly
Yeah, I've heard about that.
yeah, I was taught by, oh, and of course, the majority of my family's experience is taught by substitute teachers. So you know, even with if you have a single class, you have 6, 7 teachers throughout the school year. Um, so like education wasn't a priority for me, and my mother saw that and understood that it needed to be a priority. So we moved to Alaska, and Alaska's education system way better, like
Really?
immensely better. Smaller classroom size, like teachers that take a vested interest, which of course they're afforded that because it's smaller classroom size. And
Right.
you're often seeing, like a homeroom teacher, K through 6. You're seeing the
Right.
same person getting that touchback, and then they're seeing your family come through, all your siblings come through the school system.
Sort of a small town.
Yeah, yeah. So I lived in Alaska for 26 years, and got to travel to 120 villages in Alaska. And I lived nearly 8 years above the Arctic Circle in a place called Utqiagvik, formerly Barrow, Alaska, where the movie 30 Days of Night
See?
um,
Yeah.
is about. Yeah. So Barrow, like I said, the Inupiaq, which is the people, the indigenous people, um, call it either Utqiagvik or Utqiagvik, and the difference is where the potatoes grow and where the snowy owl is, or the place of the
Oh,
snowy owl. So anyway, it's unique in that it's the northernmost city in North America. Okay, number one, and it has a polar night and a polar day. And a polar night is 65 to 66 days of consecutive night.
right.
And then the polar day is the same, but the sun doesn't go down. They often call it the land of the midnight sun. But yeah, I lived there for almost 8 years.
Wow.
Yep. And how I got to Denver is I actually was working for the only tribal college in the state, Isagwik College. And I actually was injured on the job, not because of my job, but just it's a treacherous landscape. It's permafrost. It gets negative 56, 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 80-mile-per-hour consistent wind. It's not gale force. It's just consistent. It's a hard place to live. And I fell on the ice, and actually like severely hurt my hip. and came down to Denver, Colorado for surgery and treatment.
Okay.
But I started at NCU while I was in Alaska because of the remote location I was at. Like I lived in a place that you can only fly in. There is no road that connects you to a city. Yeah. And the barge is every few months. It does a trek up there. So I wasn't about to sit in a barge. So yeah, that brings me to Denver,
That's
Colorado.
cool. So I know your chair was Dr. Verace. I wonder if you were matched to Dr. Verace
Because of Alaska. Yeah.
because of that Alaska connection.
Yes, I think so.
I think I think he goes by he. He's lived. I think he still lives in Alaska.
Yes.
He's planning to move to Italy. We talked about this.
Correct.
And yeah, so that's cool. Did you ever get a chance to meet up? And
No, because
Alaska's
he
huge.
was in, yes, Alaska is huge. I believe he was in Kenai, which is like the southern portion of the state. And I was in the northern portion of the state, probably about 800, 900 miles as the crow flies. Yeah. So, and there's no road that connects us. So yeah, but the while I was in Alaska, the time zone was really convenient. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the time zone and just sort of a shared, we understand Alaska.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got, and I understand you're the second person I've heard had a bad fall in Alaska, and one of my grad school classmates had fallen in Alaska on a trip or something. No pun intended on a trip. Oh, I'm not going to use that joke. But so you made it. So you came down to Colorado for some healthcare,
Yes.
and you just decided you found work there while you were.
Yes, because the physical rehabilitation was a long process. Like they said, you need to commit like a 2-year to it. So yeah, so we relocated and decided like there is no commuting that kind of distance there. So yeah, we moved here and worked at a crisis line doing therapy.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. In case you can't see Dr. Lockhart's letters after his name, I'm gonna have to put some letters after my name. But
you should. I should point at like each one and go through it. So like this is my first master's degree that I actually got through the University of Sydney, and it's in health sciences, developmental disability. So that's my first.
On my screen, it's in another place, but
oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's on the opposite side of the screen. So I see DD, LMHC, MFTC, CDCS, CAC 3, and CAS.
CAS. So yeah, so my LMHC is through the state of Massachusetts. It's a licensed mental health counselor. Then the MFTC is here in Colorado, and that's a marriage family therapist candidate, which I have just, the only thing I need is to take the national exam. And with COVID, they don't want to move online. So it's been pretty booked to try to get the test because it's in person. So a lot of centers are closed. CDCS, I should point out, is actually one of my most proudest. It is a chemical dependency clinical supervisor through the state of Alaska, and it requires a minimum of 10,000 direct client hours in order to even apply for it. So that's one of my most prized. The CAC3 is a chemical addictions counselor in level 3. In Colorado State, and then the CAS is a certified autism specialist.
Wow.
Yes. So
you've been busy.
Oh yes. Yeah. And I'm waiting for my master's addiction counselor app to process through NADAC, as well as to upgrade my that CAC3 into a licensed addictions counselor here in Colorado. So yeah, it's a lot of things on the horizon, and I think we're several weeks from it happening.
And now you're a PhD as well.
Yes.
Which is pretty awesome. I don't know. Are you more proud of the CAC or the CAC3 or the PhD?
I'm gonna have to say the PhD, and really the dissertation process in itself is so rewarding, and it's such an accomplishment. I actually had looked at the last 15 years and how many Aboriginal Hawaiians. Oh, I'm sorry, no, actually briefly, there's a difference between what we call Kama'aina and Kanaka Uiwi. So like people who are Aboriginal and those who are like on the island and can trace several generations back, but that they're not like of the land, right? The indigenous people there. But both of those groups, it's 0.1%
wow.
of Hawaiians get a PhD, and that's across a 15-year period. So we are the most underrepresented in this space, right? Like in academia.
That's amazing.
It is. It's an amazing accomplishment. And as I had described earlier about that, like my experience growing up and education just not being prioritized, like that's the experience of most people on the island, you know? So I'm grateful.
Well, it's already, sort of mainly a minority, marginalized people. And then I know it's really expensive to live there, right?
Extremely expensive. Like you are living like hand to mouth every day. People are extremely impoverished. Like indigenous people there are extremely impoverished. Methamphetamine is really, really bad there. And I just, in reflecting about like my experience, I'm actually the first in my family to even go to like undergrad.
Wow.
So I never had examples. I never had examples of people even doing like university, right? Like any university.
So you're making up for like lost time, ancestors that didn't
Absolutely.
get degrees. You're just like trying to add in all the letters.
Yeah. I'm a trailblazer and a wayfarer,
Yeah, but that's how it starts. Communities can change. I don't know how Hawaii works, but perhaps you can do something to sort of, I don't know if you want to,
Well, what I just started, like I shouldn't say just started, I just concluded my first year as a minority fellowship mentor with NADAC and NBCC. So that's the Addictions Professional National Board, as well as the National Board of Certified Counselors. So I did my first year, and I just want to continue that.
So I just made the connection. I'm not sure it's a connection. Is sort of the meth, and I'm in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas, where there's plenty of meth in my state as well. Is the meth and sort of stuff like that part of why you got into addictions?
No, I actually don't have a personal experience or anyone in my direct or my immediate
I didn't
family.
mean you were on it.
But no, what you're saying is fair though, because a lot of addiction professionals have some kind of personal experience or close experience with substance abuse, and it's what gets them into the field. But that wasn't my experience. And I was lucky enough to have a grandmother and a mother who were very protective in that you don't look like it's there, just don't look, and you stay on the narrow path, right? The straight and narrow. And I actually made a transition from supporting individuals with autism spectrum disorders into addiction because I had a single client who I supported through high school into college. and he was experiencing substance abuse, and no one seemed to know what to do, and they would rather ignore it than address it. So I actually self-studied to see how to support this individual, and then found the profession in that, and wanted to be credentialed so that I could do it from a place of like efficacy and evidence base, right? Versus I'm going to just try to wing it, right? It's like, no, there's a responsibility to the profession, right? That we have to adhere to. So I became a professional in that.
Excellent. So a lot, you're building sort of this skill set that I'm not sure many have that many tools in their tool belt, so to speak. You know, it's that you got a lot going on. I've been thinking about picking up, like, for me, the next step would be like a master's in sports psych. I might try to pick up a master's in sports psych, but you know, I've got a lot of letters. I just don't use them all. You know, MS, EDS, and in counseling. So I could, if I was licensed, I'd be a LMHC or an LPC, depending on which state we're working with. But yeah, I'm sort of thinking about that sports psych because it's so similar to the ed psych that I had the PhD in. But man, that's awesome. And it's a good story. Like, you know, you've done this stuff and you've got a lot of opportunities. So remind me if I forget to say, because we're going to talk, I'm going to ask you about your dissertation a little bit, and then I'm going to say what's next. So with all the letters after your name and all the experience, I'm going to eventually want to come back to, so what's the future like for Dr. Lockhart?
Sure.
Right. So you had mentioned this beast, and we, you know, I obviously the beast is the dissertation, I think, right? But I had said, what insight could you sort of share with people about, you know, about sort of, you know, reflecting now that you're finished, just like a month ago with the dissertation, you're done looking back, what might you be able to say in a way that maybe other people need to hear, you know?
Sure, absolutely. So my experience, I think, is not unique in this, but that some might not be able to put their finger on it.
Right.
So I went into my entire PhD program with a topic, and there's a portion of students who do that. There's a research area, and although they might not have like really refined the research question, right, there's an area in which they want to study and that they're ultimately passionate and motivated by, right? So I had that topic, and what I had done intentionally throughout my dissertation journey, or I'm sorry, my PhD journey before the dissertation, was try to study as much as I could about it. And anytime I had an opportunity to engage with that topic, I would engage in the topic, right? Collect resources, collect my citations. So I had this growing body of literature. When I got to the actual dissertation proposal stage, this is where the beast comes in. So you work obviously with your chair and your committee to refine that question and to work on your chapter 1. So it's posing the question, giving an overview on the reason why the problem is important, right? The method that you're going to use.
Right.
And then you get that approved. and that's an iterative process, right? That's a long iterative process. But as soon as you get it approved, the next step really is to work on chapter 2. Like, in essence, you're working on the literature review. And my experience, and this is where the beast comes in, is as I'm doing this comprehensive review of the literature, trying to find the balanced argument, trying to educate yourself and be an expert in it, right? Being able to synthesize. I sat and asked myself, did I ask the right question? Because now I have a better understanding of what actually the landscape looks like when it comes to this topic. And there's a different question I want to ask, or nuanced in a way that appreciates this balance, instead of taking your own, again, you know, if you're motivated and you're passionate and you have your topic, there's bias in that,
Right.
right? And through the dissertation process in becoming a researcher, right, which is the focus of the dissertation, you have to remove bias and or mitigate it to some degree. Yes. So I almost wished, and this is what this is what I offer, is I almost wish I would have somehow done the literature review before the proposal. But that's not the way it's structured. So Dr. Goodin, your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. Oh, you're interviewing me now. I got it. You're switching roles. You got your new doctor on, and so you're being like, well, what do you have to say? Yeah. So I'll say, I mean, I think I can say this pretty openly. We're always, not just the academy as a whole, everywhere, all the PhDs in the world or whatever, but at North Central, we commonly have a conversation about this exact thing. Maybe not the way you said it, but in a perfect world, the lit review is chapter 2, right?
Yeah.
So in a perfect world, all of our students would do chapter 2 first.
Yeah.
And not chapter 1,
Yeah.
which is out of order numerically, right? So everybody's like, in fact, a lot of people, I've actually had students that went chapter 1, which is sort of building that basic skeleton for what you're planning to do with your whole entire study. The overarching, all the little bits about sort of the introduction to the entire 5 chapters. And then they would skip chapter 2 and go to chapter 3, build the design and the methods and the plan for data collection, all that. And then they'd go back to chapter 2. So it got even delayed further. But, there are some of the smartest people I know. I don't know how smart he is, but one of them's my boss, Dr. Bradley. And he's one that sort of advocates for sort of what you were pointing out, like they should really do chapter 2 first. That way, you're not just you've got this breadth of knowledge and this competence in the field. You know the academic conversation that's been going on for ages, and you focus mainly on the past 5 years, but you do look at what's happened before, and then if you went from chapter 2 and began chapter 1 at that point, then how hard it is to find that research problem and to find justification for it. And students struggle with that. Sure. Sometimes for 12 weeks, 20 weeks, sometimes longer. And if they had that lit review done first, they would know they'd have several research problems probably already identified if they
Absolutely.
sort of did it right, because they'd know, like, here's what the research is calling for. I've read everything that's current in this sort of topic area, and now they're all saying at the end in the discussion section, future research should focus on.
Absolutely.
Fill in the blank, and when those blanks align among multiple articles, like 10, 15, that's a research problem that you could use. On the other hand, the other way around, doing chapter 1 first sort of allows you to sort of manage your chapter 2 a little bit more instead of being like all over the place. It allows you to be like, to have a sort of a focused plan for chapter 2. So it's sort of, as you said, nature of the beast. And I just focused on the word beast. It is sort of the nature of the beast. We may, I don't know. If I was starting my own university, which I'm not, I would consider, like starting people with the lit review. But I mean, that's a good point, man. So what did you do? You went back?
No, no, I marched forward. And I marched forward because I realized that like this is the starting point for a career in research. So I get to ask those questions later and answer those later. And that the dissertation does not need to be perfect, and that truly the dissertation is a practice of the skills to be a researcher. And the question is it demonstratable? Can you demonstrate, right, some level of proficiency in conducting research? So I took it as it was, but I did allow that literature review to like inform how it is that I interpreted or concluded, right? Because I knew the gaps, where the gaps were, where there was debate, where things were like rather solidified or concrete, that there was convergence or agreement. So I could, so when I did my chapter 4 and 5, I found that to be the easiest lift. Because at that point I had massed so much knowledge and had really thought about how the literature connects.
That's fantastic. And you made another point that I think is just as poignant as your first one, that the lit review really matters, and that sort of it's almost counterintuitive that lit chapter 2 comes after chapter 1. But your point that you just said is it's not enough. So a lot of people really struggle with a focused topic because they get in their head that the dissertation is
the penultimate, right? Like it is the capstone. It's the thing that's supposed to define you.
Everything. And what they don't realize is no, honey, you're just started, right? This is the first study you will do. And then, so, they're like, I said this to, I forget, some student the other day, and I was like, so you're going to throw in the kitchen sink. They were like trying to include every confounding variable that they could possibly think of. And I was like, so kitchen sink, huh? It's you want everything in the study. I was like, that will take forever. That will take literally forever. And so you can do this forever, but do it one at a time, one study at a time. Let's start with, and I was sort of making suggestions. Let's get your dissertation focused so that you're biting off a piece of what you really want to research, maybe for the rest of your life, for a career, as you said. And then, you can do this study, make it feasible, make it doable, make it something that's not going to burn you out, so that you can finish the dissertation, be called a doctor. You can still prove your competence with just a focused study instead of everything. And then you can move on and do more follow-up studies, and you'll really know more about what you're doing, and you can just build on that initial piece you broke off. I think that's excellent. Yeah, that's good. Because I'm always trying to tell people, no, don't try to do everything right now.
Well, I think I don't want to say it's the catch-22, but I think what primes this is to even get to this level, right, within your academic journey. We're talking many a year. We're talking about, right, like 4 years for your undergrad, +2 for your master's, and then you're launching into a 3 to 4 year journey. So there's a lot of people who are just like, well, I want it now. And it's not, right, it wasn't a microwave. It wasn't like you woke up yesterday and thought, okay, I want to be a doctor, right? But it's still many a year that you've been focused on this. And then when you think about, the PhD timeline in itself, like at the most compressed, it's 18 months at the most compressed. And for most, that's not even achievable. So no, it's really about that launch pad. That's the way I like to think about it. You taking on the role of researcher and also acknowledging the role of student, that this is practice, right? You're going to get support. You don't have to know it all, but still be asking the questions, because really the like that role of learner, the role of student is what like maintains a long career in research. Is to
Hmm.
still ask the questions and still be willing to learn and have the evidence change the way in which you conceptualize, right, the issue, the way in which you like intervene, right, like handle the issue.
Right.
Um, so so yeah, it's just the start. It's
It's
a long time to get here, but still it's just a
sort of
start.
like creating a medical doctor and being like, okay, you got your MD, enjoy your life. But if they don't practice medicine, then why did we give them the degree? That's a big waste of time and money for everybody involved. And with our PhDs, we need to have that sort of same mindset. We want you to use the PhD. We want you to go out and profess or to research
Yes.
or to teach or to be a thinker or be involved and whatever it is that your life leads you to. Um, there's something important there. Did you realize um, yet at one point at what point did you realize sort of it's not about the piece of paper. It's not about this 160, 70, 150 page document I wrote. That's just symbolic. Did you ever have a point where you like realize that?
Yeah, it was when I had to take an extension to complete my literature review. Um, and it wasn't because I couldn't put the period at the end of it and conclude it. It was because I had done such a comprehensive review that I was having trouble like chopping it down, like almost sitting there and saying, okay, in what way is this relevant, this piece of information relevant to my topic? Um,
Right.
and that's a like when you create something that large or put that much time investment in it, it becomes your baby, and you don't want to sit there with a scalpel and cut at your baby. You
Yeah.
don't. So it was at that point that like I was able to really sit down and reflect and say, no, like this is about like really having something that's achievable, right? That's like a feasible study. And it's not about, again, it being the penultimate. Like it doesn't need, but the great thing about going through that process is that that literature review that I did is going to fuel a career. Like I
Right.
can always go back to that and look at it and say, okay, because I actually took a dual approach. I didn't just go the last 5 years and really like try to um, like attach it to the research question. I took a historical perspective and tried to look at how these constructs changed over time. Because my research topic is rather new, like it's a modern issue, which is internet gaming disorder.
Right.
Um, so there, like a lot of the research was based in pathological gambling
Right.
and moving right and trying to translate or generalize over to this new place, but there's elements within internet gaming and gaming disorder that is not about risk versus reward or some of these risk-taking behaviors that you see in gambling. So anyway, I laid that foundation, but it's fertile ground for arguments later, but just not now. Like again, now is about like knowing that this like your research, so your research costs money, and I think that's a thing that can help ground students as they're going through the dissertation process. And like I said, with having to take an extension to get my literature review in, that was a piece, and I was like, okay, well, I'm funding this,
Right.
so in that I'm beholden to that almost funding constraint, right? What am I in budget? Which is also thinking like a researcher,
Hmm.
right? Do you have the budget to do your study?
Right.
Am I going to keep it open for this much longer? Am I going to have to go into different locales or regionals because I have access to money or I don't? Right? Like that helps with the process. So yes, that was the point for me.
I didn't, and I'll let you make the decision here. One thing I didn't add to sort of to the list that we talked about, like um, of things that we would discuss during the interview, I wanted to say, and you can say, oh, we'll save that for another time, or you can say, oh, yeah, I'll talk about that briefly or whatever. Do you want to share what you found in your dissertation, or do you want to save that?
Let's save it because I'm not prepared and I found so much. Because I found, I mean, I'm not sure if you recall, I know you do a lot of the defenses and you read a lot of dissertations, but I had like 3 surprises. I
Right.
had 3 surprises and I was just like, and there were 3 surprises in an area that I was not looking.
We'll
I
leave
was
it,
just trying to
we'll
round
leave
it
it
out.
as a teaser.
Yeah,
Teaser for follow-up with Dr. Lockhart.
there we
Um,
go.
and so I appreciate you being honest about that. I don't want to, the interviews get too long, but I can break them up. But also, if you're comfortable, I'd love to have you come back. So
Definitely.
we talked about sort of how to keep up with Dr. Lockhart, and you mentioned, I don't know if you want to get into this right now either, but I I was just like, wow, that's got to be on the list for some time. You're not on Facebook. Um,
I am not on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn and I actively post on LinkedIn. So folks can follow me at linkedin.com/, and you have to do the IN for the in and then / Ezra Lockhart, EZRA LOCKHART.
okay.
And
So
send a connection.
just in short, though, as part of your data collection, you were on Facebook and encountered some people that didn't know if you were real and were kind of cautious about you. More than cautious, they were.
More, yes, they started off defensive, and within a matter of 15 minutes, this debate occurred online that I saw in real time as I posted my recruitment. And individuals, again, were unsure if I was a real person or not.
Right.
And the community, the community of people who identify as gamers, adult gamers, doxed me. Like they put my address, my phone number, all these things to try to substantiate if I was a real person. And that's when a horde of people, the tsunami, sat there and flagged my account, and I got banned from Facebook. Like my personal Facebook account got banned, and I to this date have not been able to get it unbanned. So you can't find me on Facebook, folks. That's what I'm saying.
Go fund me eventually and get you back on Facebook.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So important. No,
Yes.
yeah, that's just like, we'll bring you on the panel of people that had crazy things happen during their dissertation, and that's one of the most interesting things I've heard. You got doxxed, which means documented. They pulled your documents and figured out where you live. Luckily, they didn't send sometimes they'll like send
the SWAT you. Yeah, there's swatting.
the SWAT team to your house. Doesn't sound like they did that, so that's good.
No.
But the way to keep up with you again, just remind me.
Yes, it's on LinkedIn. You can find me Ezra Lockhart, and I have a direct link, which is linkedin.com/IN/Ezra Lockhart.
IN/Ezra Lockhart. All right, and I'll put that in the video. I may have to message you and get it, but that's good. And right now, the future is what for you? Keep doing what you're doing, and what are you adding on, or what are you changing?
Sure. So I definitely want to be doing research, and my research topic, it has such generalizability.
Right.
My study was qualitative, which is very, very infrequently found in the research literature, and I want to open it up to things like mobile device addiction, screen time, right? Growing up with devices, and how that changes from generation to generation, especially since it's a modern phenomenon.
Mm-hmm.
Console games, which is big. There's a lot of, and the another area that's fertile is streaming and sports betting around gaming. So there's a whole new emerging thing of like online or competitive gaming, in which people bet. So that's interesting. And I'm trying to seek university appointment really in order to like, have a place, be affiliated in order to do my research.
All right, I'll keep an eye out for that if I see anything.
Yes.
So everybody, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Ezra Lockhart. This has been Driven to Doctorate with Dr. Joel B. Goodin and Dr. Ezra Lockhart as our guest. Thank you.